On here with Margot Ridler. We had some great videos. I'll post here at the end and a link in the cards here we did last time from introductions to Bitcoin, a lot of Q&A that we did on back and forth, and some incredible edits that you had made, Margaret, last time. Thank you very much. It's so good to connect with you again. How you been?
I'm great, and it's really nice to be with you again. I have, in fact, 18 new questions I put together that I'm hoping we can at least get through some of them. The people who don't know anything about me, I'm totally new to Bitcoin. I discovered, which you can watch in these other clips, that I'm totally new. I described a little bit my back history with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, the BSV, the real Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. And so ever since we had our last talk, I did more research. There's quite a lot of really interesting X on X channel, on former Twitter, lots of people who are giving lots of really good information. So I want to throw a whole bunch of new questions at you, if that's okay. And whatever I'm putting out are basically questions I think anyone that's new would have, and maybe even people who are involved in BTC, in the Bitcoin digital gold, BTC Bitcoin, may find interesting too, because I am trying to understand the difference between the two and where the disconnect happened. How come so many people are following the BTC digital gold Bitcoin when that was never part of the actual original Bitcoin protocol? So somehow there is a disconnect with people not really realizing there is a big difference between these two. Is that
Let's
okay?
do it, Margaret. Let's go ahead and start. It's great. I'm happy to help.
Okay, great. Thank you. By the way, I appreciate
None of this is planned, by the way, too. Let's do it my favorite way. Hopefully these are embarrassing questions. So
First, this is something we touched upon already in our previous video. Bitcoin originally was designed as an egalitarian system where it's a peer-to-peer digital cash system where you and I can exchange, which actually we did because you sent me some BSV and I sent you some back. So it's an egalitarian system, and where people in Africa who don't have maybe even a bank account can have, if they have a smartphone, they can receive Bitcoin and send Bitcoin. So it's a globalized system where the Bitcoin can be changed freely with minimal fees between amongst each other. Now, the Bitcoin that everybody now knows is almost the exact opposite, because it's like a king-making mechanism. The people who got in early, now that the Bitcoin is $120,000 or $130,000 for one Bitcoin, if they got it at 50 cents or $1 or $10 or even $100 or even $1,000, they have gained so much dollar value now, money, that anyone who enters the system now will have they have a much lesser ability to accumulate as much money as the people that got in early. So to me, it's almost, first of all, it's a king-making system. That's the term that came to me yesterday, where the people who got in early will be the ones who are going to be the kings of Bitcoin. They already have probably made several $1 million, maybe more. But also, it's like a pyramid scheme where the ones at the very beginning who got in early, as more and more people are coming in and the price is getting pushed up, so the people from the initial bottom are getting raised up to the top, and they're going to be sitting on the top and earning more and more money as the price of Bitcoin increases. So the ones on the bottom, like on a pyramid scheme, are the ones who are really funneling, in this case, value up to the top. And so it's not an egalitarian system at all. It's a king-making system. And so anyone who is now saying Bitcoin is digital gold and it's not really supposed to be a peer-to-peer, this is a store of value forever that you can pass on to the next generation. I mean, it's leaving out a lot of people again of the world Whereas before we could exchange money freely for micropayments and micro fees. And now it's a king-making pyramid scheme. That's how I see it anyway. And so maybe you could have some thoughts to what I just said and help clarify anyone who is coming in and looks at Bitcoin as a store of value digital gold, because that's what's being promoted. Understand that that was never the initial purpose, and it was always supposed to be an egalitarian system where everybody can equally exchange money, mostly freely, because the fees are supposed to be very little micropayments, like a 0.0 cent or something.
Well, there's a lot there to unpack. I mean, it's it is definitely there's the psychological operation behind what's going on is extremely confusing. So, can be very disheartening for people. If you're just learning about this, for the first time, or it can be hard to figure out. I mean, and the branding itself is just completely confusing. So, what happened is that when it came out in 2009, then it launched in 2008. The paper came out October 31st, and then in January 2009, when it actually launched on the network, the Bilderberg group, they didn't really see what was happening on this or take it into consideration until much later. I think around 2014. So they realized that it was a problem, and they realized they had actually already kind of missed the opportunity to shut it down. So now they had to figure out another way to basically create a different operation on this, because they couldn't shut it down, but they could delay it. They could delay adoption, and they could delay the disruption of the technology. It's so confusing when you're not like a cryptographer and a computer scientist in the very beginning, in the early days, that even like smart people like under the Bilderberg group didn't see it until years later. They didn't really see how disruptive it was. And so it wasn't, I mean, that's literally why we are where we are right now, because it would have already, I mean, they might have been able to stop it immediately had they seen it, but they couldn't.
Can you explain the disruption part for people who don't know what you're talking about with that? Like, what did they not see until 2014 that was obvious to anyone who was initially interested in Bitcoin?
What did they not see? Well, I mean, what they didn't see was that Bitcoin, it enables true, it's literally enables freedom. And when freedom comes in so many different elements, but I mean, it's like in a pure sense, transacting in cash, peer to peer, is a form of freedom, because you're not bound by any centralized party. You don't have to get a bank account. You're not required to have a credit score. You're not required to have an ID. You are transacting in cash, and you and the other party control that, and it's a private right to contract. And that's why Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution is so important and powerful. It's centered around that here. A private right to contract shall not be infringed. So our private right to contract between each other shall not be infringed. And that's why this peer-to-peer cash system is built on that, where the moment it's got a middleman, that they call it anything they want, whether it's Lightning Network or MasterCard, that's a middleman. And now it's no longer a private, contract between the parties. And it appears that it is. That's the sad part, is it actually kind of looks like it might be still a peer-to-peer transaction. Even if you go on and start asking Grok or chat GPT these questions, it might even be a little confused, and it might tell you that it's still the same until you really dive into it.
BTC now. You're talking about BTC. It's still maybe
it's
AI.
not the same, but I'm saying that it is a little bit confused. The bots, even the chat GPT bots and Grok bots, are a little bit even confused by this, because what happens is they send it off to another off-chain network to do the transaction, and then it goes over to the other party, and they say, look, it worked, and it was fast, and it was affordable, and you don't really see what happened, but it actually went off to another network. It's rerouted into a controlled system, and then they send it off for you. Well, none of that's necessary. It's not, you're not using Bitcoin at that point. Now, so here's the thing: if you're in a purest sense, if you're going to rely on another third party to use Bitcoin, then why even bother using Bitcoin?
Totally.
You're not, let's just stick with the fiat system that we have, because we already have a pretty decent, good system right now. Why would we do the same exact model with Bitcoin? Why is because, well, like I said, they were late to the party when Bilderberg Group, they came to the and funded Blockstream with they put about $50 million into Blockstream. They realized they were late to the party, and they were like, we got to stop this thing. We got to find a way to stop this thing. And so they did the best they could, and that's how the entire operation was started with BTC. Taking the narrative, shifting it over to keeping the small block narrative, centering it around that it was meant to be digital gold. It wasn't meant to be a peer-to-peer cash system, and completely disrupting the white paper. It's just it's a mutation is what it was. So they just wanted to mutate everything, to slow down progress. It's not something that can be stopped forever, but it's done a good job at slowing it down. To prevent adoption.
Also derailing people, right? People got really derailed in it. And like I was mentioning, the ones who got in early, they are such supporters of Bitcoin because they made so much money from it, right? And they keep saying, you have to hold it, you have to store, it's a store of value. Because if there aren't more people coming in, the price of Bitcoin is going to go down, because the price of Bitcoin is really only going up because more and more people are funneling into buying it. So if people are not buying more and more, then the price of Bitcoin is going to come down. And then the whole pyramid scheme is no longer working. That's how I understand it anyway.
Hopefully we can share the message with people that that they're not going to make money. Well, first of all, if you're relying on gambling to make your living, that is a very, very risky and very strategic business that you're in. So be mindful that gambling for a living is a very risky business, and that's all BTC is. And so you want to be mindful when you're even buying any of this stuff. Hold on. What are you doing? Are you actually doing it for a purpose, for utility, to build a business? How are you, these should all be in consideration. You don't want to just invest in this stuff just to think you're going to get rich. That is a risky business.
Well, I think it worked so far, right? The people who got in early so far, the price is still high. So I think it worked so far. That's why the story or the propaganda that's what it really is so strong. And more people are trying to get in on this pie that's being being cooked up. But anyway, so that I just wanted to make sure that people understand Bitcoin is not an egalitarian system. The ones who got in early, they'll be the kings of Bitcoin, and anyone who comes after are kind of the farmers that feed the kings with their money as they're buying it now at these super high prices. All right. So thank you for giving us your feedback. The other thought that I had was if we use Bitcoin as cash, it has to be a stable system. Like if I want to sell what I do, my healing work, for a particular price, I can't have the Bitcoin go up today to 120 and then tomorrow fall down to 70 and then climb back up to a higher price. It's like the dollar wouldn't work, or any kind of a fiat currency. It wouldn't work as a store of as money when the value goes up and down. So we know that BSV, the original Bitcoin right now, is around $25, $20. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked. But to me, that's a much more viable number for the everyday person to purchase some and then start utilizing it. So what is your thoughts on this whole price fluctuation?
Well, the price fluctuation is really is very manipulated. So it's hard to gauge the genuineness of that. What is I know that people are really interested in price because they think that's how they're going to get rich. But you're going to get rich by adding value to the network and understanding the core principles of an economically competitive system. You got to make sure that the system is economically competitive that you're involved in, having it as proof of work. If if it's a proof of stake system, then Again, you're centralizing things. You're not allowing actual work to be done to develop to develop a competitive system. Number two, it has to be unbounded scale. If the system doesn't scale through basically unbounded infinite levels, it's going to be short lived. It's not going to it's just not going to last. And there has to be a fixed supply to it. Completely fixed, an unchanging fixed token supply, and a locked protocol from the beginning to the end. It cannot change. You cannot be starting with one rule set and then evolving and changing it. It's just it will fail because people build their business and everything changes on the protocol. It's not lasting. And then the last thing, it has to be like neutral size and organic growth through the system, started by a completely non-centralized party. It cannot be a what's called a pre-mine system, where they're just one party or a bunch of people get in early and they pre-mine all the tokens, like on an airdrop. I mean, these should be red flags to people when they're like looking at things like this. And if it doesn't hit those 5 elements, then it's not a digital commodity. Okay, and digital commodity is going to be the only way. There's only really one digital commodity right now. I think the SEC is going to be eventually rule on, and as we have this Clarity Act come into law, and I'm convinced 100% that it's going to be this network, known as the Bitcoin protocol. It's the Bitcoin protocol, not what this altcoin system that they have that is using the name Bitcoin. I'm talking about the protocol itself. When they look at the protocol, they're not looking at the brand name. They're looking at what is it doing and how does it work. And it has to have these elements. Otherwise, it's going to, it's a security, and it's got a central controlled party. So these are just important, very important elements to have a true digital commodity. The most important.
Yeah, but how does it work with price? I cannot, this particular Bitcoin, BSV, also was high at one point. It was 500 or something, and now it's down to 20. So there's also these fluctuations. I'm just wondering if I want to now utilize BSV in order my clients pay me in whatever fee I will set for BSV. If the price of BSV keeps changing, then I have to continuously change my price. So from like a farmer or anybody, if the price of the token continuously changes, it makes it very hard for a business owner to actually work with the price setting and with the profit.
Right. No, it does. I agree. I mean, that is going to be solved. That's been solved through the stable coins. We have the with the Genius Act that's come out now, and the U.S. government has now basically taken a dominant supply, where Tether is now the U.S. owner of the largest owner of U.S. debt. And
but I'm not interested in stable coins. I mean, I'm interested in Bitcoin. I mean,
if you want a stable coin, it's going to be stable coin, right? So to answer your question, that's the answer to the stable coin question. Now, otherwise, you're going to have you have no guarantee that the price is going to be stable, because you're rating it in fiat. So we don't know what's going to happen.
Sure, but Bitcoin was developed initially as a peer-to-peer exchange. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, as it was developed, that price fluctuation, maybe that wasn't even part of the initial mindset. I don't know, but there wasn't. I don't see anywhere in the white paper that it says we need stable coins in order to actually use BSV.
No, you don't need stable coins, but in order that's the only way to solve the problem that you mentioned there. So
okay, all right.
Because we it's out of our control for what's going to happen to the price. It could go to 1,200 next week, and all of a sudden now your business is completely changed, and the person that paid you in a fiat value is like, oh, what's going on? So I paid this, and now it's worth this. I mean, so that is out of our control. We can't control that. So
I think Satoshi Dr. Craig Wright, when he was envisioned this, he was not even envisioning an exchange of the tokens with fiat, right? It's supposed to be an outside system. I think we are dealing with this problem right now because Bitcoin has been hijacked and it's now being pushed into the fiat system. I think that was really never supposed to be part of the equation. That's my sense anyway. Because when BSV was initially developed. It was mined, right? So you couldn't buy Bitcoin with fiat back then, because the only way you got Bitcoins was you mined them, right?
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely. You still can
Initially.
today.
Yeah, initially, right? So that's how people got Bitcoin. So the idea of exchanging fiat to buy Bitcoin, that didn't even come online until several years later, I would assume,
Yeah,
right?
not more until like 2011, 2012, more than even like 2013 before it became more mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it possible then for the everyday person to mine Bitcoin if that's something they would want
Yeah,
to do?
absolutely. I mean, well, I don't know about everyday person, but I mean, there's a Gorilla Pool has a pool where the easiest way to do it is get involved in a pool. Now, the way mining works is that if you're just one miner with one ASIC machine, the likelihood of you actually be getting the block reward is low. So
Okay.
it's like when you're trying to solve the hash puzzle with these ASICs miners, when you have the hash power of just one ASIC, your likelihood of success is low. See, your computer, the ASICs miner, it's solving the hash puzzle by trying to get by making guesses as fast as it possibly can, and the winning guess is going to win the block reward. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's where it comes from. So in order for an everyday person to have success mining, they'd have to join a pool.
Okay.
They'd have
Okay.
to join a pool like Gorilla Pool and say, you know what, I'm going to join the power of others and unite. And then Gorilla Pool actually shares the block rewards with its pool members. And
Okay.
they're always getting block rewards every day.
Okay, so that's interesting. If anybody is interested in that, that would be a good way of maybe getting involved. If you don't want to buy any Bitcoin yourself with your fiat, you could maybe join that
Yeah,
whatever
Gorilla
that.
Pool. I would highly recommend people go and check out Gorilla Pool. Just search Gorilla Pool. You could talk to their sales department or talk to Kurt, and I would highly recommend it. I mean, they freaking really they're an honest business, and you will get block awards. I could tell you from experience, you will actually gain block awards, and you will get virgin coins. And that's one of the things about the those coins is like you're actually getting virgin coins like they used to have way back in the day of when they come off the block. So it's like there's a lot of people that are out there saying there's a huge amount of intrinsic value in those type of coins. They're differently. They're numismatic. I guess it could be the numismatic coins. They have a different value than just a regular coin. Why? Because an institution who's beginning to build and do adoption on Bitcoin, they're more likely going to need virgin coins because if a coin gets out there into the black market and goes onto Silk Road, and then it gets tied up in bankruptcy court, and then it has a history of all these problems, it could be a little riskier for an institution to want to use that potentially. So having a virgin coin with no history is fresh and valuable. It's not going to be tied up in litigation potentially. That's the purpose.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So if anybody's interested in mining or getting Bitcoins the original way, the way it was initially done
Definitely.
all years, that's the way of going about
You're
it.
you were you were you'd be a yeah, that would be
That's
a valuable thing to have for sure.
This question is what we talked already a little bit about earlier about why the original Bitcoin protocol was hijacked. Because when Bitcoin is used as a peer-to-peer electronic cash, it's actually, if it's not tied to the fiat, which initially it wasn't, then it's a system outside the government money. So it's really a system totally unregulated in a way that the government doesn't have any input whatsoever. So if people are mining their own Bitcoin, there's only a certain amount that can be mined. It's almost like, you go dig up gold or silver in a mine and then you have it. So it's in a way the same way. Then that is outside the system. The government cannot get taxes from it. They won't know how that is spent. So it's a parallel system in a way that the original Bitcoin is created. So it would make sense that the money people who are on top of all of the world's money, fiat money, banking institutions, that once they recognize that Bitcoin is a system outside and it could really derail our system, that's when they really came in and did whatever they had to do in order to hijack Bitcoin. But it seems to me the initial original intent or creation was a money system that was completely separate and outside the governmental money system. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin takes away power. So that's really at its fundamental core principle. It takes away power. It takes away the power of money. And while you're on the right track that it's outside of the fiat central banking system, one of the key principles that makes it legal and makes it recognized for the long term is it is trackable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it has a digital signature that is there, so you have a permanent receipt. It doesn't mean that it's traced to you where you have a retina scan and an ID attached to it. No, but it means that you have a receipt for your transaction, and you could say, look, I got this on this day from this person, and this is mine. I own this. You have a receipt for that. That is critical, because if you completely destroy the signature on things, or make it some sort of a privacy system, now you don't have proof of claim. You have no chain of custody.
Mm-hmm.
This is so critical for the long term. It's critical until it happens to you. Okay, and like my legal background, I'm telling you, this is like absolutely essential to have what's called a chain of custody. We have this problem right now in California with the voting system where there's no chain of custody on these ballots. They drop them in the mail. They start going around the world, and we have no idea who's got what and who did what. There's no chain of custody. It's completely void, in my opinion, voidable. So we, in order to have a real proof of claim on the money, which like a Bitcoin would be, you got to make sure you can keep track of your transaction. So if you go on and you look and you see a legacy Bitcoin from 2009, or one of the early days, actually anything prior to 2017 July, then it would have been on a legacy address with number 1. Now that is a legacy Bitcoin address. Now, as soon as you transferred it from there, unless you went through excruciating pain and paid a lot more fees than you would had to be, then you likely transferred it to a SegWit address. That's problematic. I've done it too, so I'm not accusing anyone of it. We've all been through it. But once that happened, now you've completely changed the digital signature of the transaction, and you've gone to a separate network. You no longer have the same history to prove your claim. And technically, in a legal sense, it's absolutely worthless. Because if you cannot prove that, then you have no standing.
And the segue is what?
SegWit is the protocol that was brought out with BTC.
Oh, I see.
SegWit is where they separated the digital signature on the transaction.
I see. Okay.
You see, by separating the digital signature on the transaction, it's eliminated the ability of the party to stake a claim.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Now, again, it doesn't matter until it does.
Sure.
Until you actually have to make that claim, and you can't, then it matters and it all falls apart. Yeah. But right now, it's like it's standing on sand. It's just there. But the moment somebody like really serious wanted to make a claim on a SegWit coin and go to court and say, I want to prove this is my coin, I've got all my history here, and they say, well, where's the history? And they say, well, I don't see any history. Where did you get this from? You probably stole this. No, I didn't steal it. How can you prove it? I can't. Oh, now you have no way to stake a claim. You have no actual history that you actually bought that.
Yeah, but nevertheless, it's really a system outside. It's almost like if you and I start exchanging with gold or silver coins, that's outside the system right now, right?
Well, it's under Article 1, Section 10. It's our right to a private contract. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, and it says that the right to a right to contract shall not be infringed. So
Okay.
shall not be infringed. So you and I have a right to contract. And if we decide we're going to transact in Bitcoin or we're going to transact in tomatoes, that's our private contract. That's
Okay.
our business and it shall not be infringed. What
Huh.
makes Bitcoin special is it enhances the right to contract digitally
Mm-hmm.
for the first time. We've always had the right to contract in gold and silver, but not digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a right to a private contract digitally.
You know, there was a guy who developed the silver coins, Liberty Dollar. Have you heard of
Oh,
that?
yeah, I've done a lot of research on it. That's Joseph von Perling.
And he actually had to go to jail, or
Okay, that's the founder of the Liberty Dollar.
yeah, because he was considered that he has a separate money. He created a separate monetary system with the silver coins outside the governmental system, and that was not allowed. That's why I was,
Yeah,
looking at Bitcoin having potential.
fascinating piece of history by Joseph von Perling in the early days of the Liberty Dollar is that this is on a blog post that's been now scrubbed off the internet, but you could probably find it on Crypto Rebel on X. He usually archives things, backs them up really well, and I've done a video on it in the past. I'd have to try to find it, but what happened was that Joseph von Perling, he wrote a blog post, probably, I don't know, 2014. This is really early days, about seeing and meeting Satoshi at a crypto conference, not a crypto conference. This is a tech conference in the Netherlands in 2005. And the way he knew it was Satoshi is because he had his name badge. He says, "How am I going to find you?" He's sharing him all these ideas about money and digital currency and how peer-to-peer transactions and this invention that he's working on. And then he asked him at the end, "How am I going to be able to find you?" And he gives him his badge. He's like, "Just look for the name Satoshi Nakamoto." And he posted that blog post way years ago. Like it wasn't a new thing. Of course, it's been scrubbed, and the guy got persecuted for it, but. It's a fascinating piece of the history of story. He's never come out really since. I'm sure he got targeted. I've never seen testimony from him on that, but it's the Liberty Dollar guy.
Yeah, Liberty Dollar. I did quite a bit of research in 2020 on it because that was one of the potentials of protecting our own money from the overreach that was happening from the government. So it's
Silver and
again,
gold are definitely a way out. I mean, it is. Those are. I love having silver and gold. It's not going to change. It's in the Constitution. That's never not going to change. This is you got to think both though. Both. Now we have a digital way.
yeah.
We also
Yeah.
have a digital way to transact too, because we're in the online world. And in 17, in this, when the Constitution was written, they never even conceived of having an online digital world. So we
Yeah,
have
and
an online way to transact now as well, peer to peer.
yeah. And we need to because global. I mean, I have clients from all over the place, and I'm sure you do. And a lot of us who are offering all kinds of products or services, offering it online now. So it's not just within a community. A doctor, most doctors can't really see people in other places except, they come to them. But a lot of our products and services can be offered online. So no, totally. That's why I was interested in Bitcoin for that.